fundamentally like the NHS. We all fundamentally like the idea of nationalism in Britain. The only people who don't like the idea of nationalism... What does it mean to me as a person to be a man? I suppose fundamentally it means being a disposable asset. And I'm okay with that, you know, because fundamentally, right, my point, and I fundamentally dislike a political approach that is fucking over the poor and fucking over, you know, I suppose using fundamentally here is a misnomer, because of the very subject that I'm talking about. Very terrible things happened and happen because men are shitheads, but I feel like fundamentally that's the reason why patriarchal societies... Yes, I appreciate that we can't keep them all here. I do appreciate that, but fundamentally, if they have come all this fucking way to be here, and yeah, there will be links to these in the description, but yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. Is a train that is not gonna fucking stop, because the patriarchy is fundamentally about the one demographic being protected of the fact that she is fundamentally a feminist, yet she's also fundamentally submissive, and she... I mean, I know that there's a lot of work that goes into it, but that is fundamentally an elitist point of view that I really don't like. With, like, a shield. But fundamentally, a wall does not create the same feelings of animosity in me as... But if you are going to adapt a story that is fundamentally about people being on either side, and it's fundamentally, right, this shit is difficult. If people who know what the fuck they're talking about, like guys who were in favour of slavery at the time, fundamentally you are getting a hard-on about the ability to kill people. Timers, just so that I don't bore you and don't fundamentally clog up my memory with a massively long Skyrim episode. So, but democracy, you know, but fundamentally democracy is ultra important. Like, and interacting with people is a fundamentally draining experience, even if they are people I know and trust and like. Gambling on their marketing department selling it well. Because fundamentally, right, if these companies invest so much money into making a game and they're kind of trapped there, in the sense that you can't really retire as king, you know? Because fundamentally, right, so you retire as king, fucking old white men. Labour are still fundamentally middle ground, and thus kind of they want to appeal to conservatives. Then we can change the world, because fundamentally the media only has power, really, and say, well, you are attacking something that I fundamentally believe in and is core to my character, but you aren't actually wishing that in a society that is not much different from here is, well, you don't have the data. Because fundamentally, right, yeah, we've got magnetic realms about the, you know, the possibility of brain uploading. And fundamentally, right, the issue that we have with brain uploading, well, there's a few issues. I mean, what is capitalism fundamentally? It's social Darwinism, right? It is a system of exchange that is designed.
They would enact discipline, but fundamentally they had to have the majority of the people on side most of the time. Life is sacred, that's a horrible thing to happen, but fundamentally, like, I'm a bit preoccupied with the survival of the human civilization. I mean, my tendency is to beat myself up, but, you know, fundamentally, like, if this was anybody else, the answer's a man, but fundamentally, like, if you've got a question, you don't ask. You go, you're out. You know, the levels of that, it's like, you know, if, it, you know, fundamentally, right, I would go out with a girl as fat as me. I'd go get a shitty job. Well, what if there aren't enough shitty jobs? I mean, fundamentally, right, shitty jobs can be done by machine. Smart enough to not go, oh, well, you know, somebody said some shit, because fundamentally fundamentally less. And yeah, there will be links to these in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter, stuff like that. It all fundamentally in the end comes down to not good. You know, it really, fundamentally, people are getting told day in, day out that yes, I'm very probably going to face, and never mind the fact that, you know, fundamentally, I'm going to be moving from, you know, shit, because fundamentally fundamentally, less children would have been affected if more people listened to shit. Not good. It's, I mean, like, you know, fundamentally, like, you spend all your time sitting on it. It's not good. It's not a nice ass. Talking about, we're so much better than that. But fundamentally, right, for the vast majority of history, life was fucking tough. Now, you know what? I am a lefty, and I am a pacifist, but fundamentally, you're provoking us. Things are facts that are unfortunate, but, you know, fundamentally, right, they don't have that much of an impact upon. Earlier blog post, why being a submissive man is okay. You know? I mean, fundamentally, guys, again, I refer you to the fact that I wrote that to have. Your sexuality is fundamentally what you like. You know, I'm someone who has fetishes. Countries that make up Britain, but fundamentally we're just Brits. It doesn't make a difference anymore. We're just... He did work under the Nazi regime, tried to do good within it, but still fundamentally he was involved in the system that it was fixed. Because that's fundamentally what fanfics are. You know, I will fix this now. I like really possible yet. Because fundamentally, like, the kind of run I'm doing, we've not yet gotten to the point where I can quality it. Because, you know, fundamentally, you know, even the anglerfish, the mantises, and the guy who like you're the people who like my content, you know. Fundamentally, like, I'm just a guy pissing into the void without you guys. Love and the power of love, it's just really lost all meaning for me, you know. Because fundamentally, what love means to me is it won't affect anybody who isn't okay with that. Because fundamentally, people's views are okay to be respected. If you want videos
I mean, fundamentally, right, I am talking to myself, but talking to a camera.
DRM control over this shit. But fundamentally, if it's online and it's playable in some form or another,
in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. Join my Reddit. I also have a Facebook fan page because I fundamentally do not trust these motherfuckers, right? Because apart from anything else, there have been people that I have. Will be links to these in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. Join my Reddit. I also have a Facebook. Fucking work on me. Just does not fucking work on me. You know, I am a fundamentally anti-authoritarian character when it comes to being online. Is that I fundamentally hate myself. You know, I've been bullied my entire life. So
Bernie Sanders is not a corporatist. Fundamentally, Senator Bernie Sanders, he debates the policies. Okay? It goes in. Okay, I don't actually know that much about guns. But the point is that fundamentally, once it's loaded, once it's live, you pull one. Of course it isn't. But fundamentally, right, if you watch my stuff, if you read my stuff, appreciate that they did it. But you know, it's fundamentally the Tories that fucked up the economy, right? You know, they've kept fucking.
Sort of said, you know, maybe that's not such a smart idea, and you know, fundamentally, you know, I'm a fucking talking head on the internet. It doesn't fucking matter. But I think they all fundamentally come down to the fact that he is, as Dan Carlin notes, he's fucking authority.
You just have to combat it. You have to. And, you know, I mean, fundamentally, like, so, you know, I suppose that fundamentally, if you can't make enthusiastic consent, you know, I am hated by everybody, and I suppose fundamentally that's why I keep writing stories about it was hard and it was horrible. But fundamentally, there was something kind of primordially, you know, acceptable. And you know, we've got the nukes. You know, fundamentally, we've got the nukes. Be fucking careful. I think that because, you know, you have your rights, and fundamentally, like, if you're royalty, if you
know, capital, the idea of capital that everybody so reviles on the left, it's fundamentally, right, if you create because it's still feudalism, because it's still fundamentally soldiers, people getting paid so that they can work on a farm, right? You know, actually, I can get bored at times, but, you know, fundamentally, right, when I'm writing, it's because I'm writing.
Everybody loves the NHS. Okay, we've all got problems with it, but we all fundamentally like the NHS. We all fundamentally like the idea.
In the sense that if I'm not prepared to work those 3 hours for free, you know, fundamentally in terms of 3 hours, I'm working free.
Cameron's the one who's actually resulted in people dying. But Labour fundamentally fucked it all up in the first place. So I think that, you know, the chief whips can do what they like, but they, you know, fundamentally, what are they going to do? Kick the Tory people from the
They are fundamentally lazy, fundamentally greedy, fundamentally lustful.
I couldn't help it. I was, trying to be as calm and civil as possible, but fundamentally, my body was rushing with all sorts of...
Gets views or not. It's still fundamentally just me on my own talking to myself. Regardless of whether the video gets 7,000 views, then I can do stuff with that information. Fundamentally, I cannot improve a situation if I do not know a problem is there. What's fundamentally anti-humanitarian because it is fundamentally selfish and it is fundamentally stupid because it's a terrifying threat. It's pest control. But fundamentally, like, how are you gonna fucking fight this pest? Because fundamentally, Senator Bernie Sanders is not a corporatist. Fundamentally, Senator... And I suppose fundamentally that's the issue. I don't get this. I'm not gonna stand aside because, it's your fucking state, man. But fundamentally, the states were going to war because the board combinations, and we all have our preferences. And so, and also, fundamentally, it doesn't matter whether you're, shooting shows nobody fucking gives a shit about. Okay? Fundamentally, more people, okay, I still think they're fundamentally full of shit, but I can accept that these people have this different perspective, and being left-wing, then absolutely we should leave the EU. Because, because fundamentally we can have a revolution in Britain and you just kind of do these fundamentally amoral actions because you just make mistakes and you end up there, and it's just like, but still, fundamentally, it's a choice between a racist David Cameron and a very charismatic, interesting, very useful, and is helping me in this sort of early days of the thing, because fundamentally, I trust Google, right? Like, basically, so that we can pretend that we're still important. And so, fundamentally, we aren't. It's very much about the great men of history striding through, because fundamentally, right, you've got to have what you think and let's spread the word and blah, blah, blah. That's okay, because fundamentally, if you don't like my opinion, you can go somewhere else. It's just Hulk fighting a robot, and it's just like, no, it's fucking not. It really isn't. I mean, fundamentally, science fiction is a warning of... There is the fact that fundamentally, as much as I want to believe there is good and evil and that I am on the circle, but fundamentally, no matter how much they fucking wail and go, be allowed to flourish in the first place, because fundamentally, your corporation is sadistic things. And this fundamentally is kind of why I started looking at the videos. What? No, because, my morality is not gonna, I fundamentally, if I'm caught between one-handed weapons and we get muffled movement, and again, at this point, fundamentally, all skills being leveled means more
proper level. It happened because they're stupid fuckwits, or whether they made it happen because they're evil fuckwits. Fundamentally, bad shit happened, people died, and, that's very nasty and very much not nice, but fundamentally, religious fundamentalists, there are becoming less and less jobs that are available. Fundamentally, less and less people are becoming able to do jobs. And, fundamentally, we need renewable energy regardless of fucking climate change, right? I don't care, fundamentally, about what you've got to say. I mean, occasionally I will get it. I don't like her. I don't like her policies. I don't fundamentally trust her to run the country, and I certainly, you can still like it to people. I suppose that's fundamentally it. I want to present that perspective to people. Fundamentally, I am shameless. I don't care what other people think.
And fundamentally, literally, the free market is based on the idea of commerce is tied. You think that sexuality is tied to gender, okay? That's fundamentally what you're saying. You're saying sexual, not just to need to have these options open to them, and so do men, because fundamentally, like, what if you want to be a house husband? Have had it given to you from somebody or somewhere. Fundamentally, at a certain point, you will who stand fundamentally opposite to who I am. Oh, but they like me. Oh, do they? Do they? And that is fundamentally how I deal with these fuckers. Because you see, and the reason that it fundamentally will do that is because it is formed of the outrage of the oppressed. Defensible. Okay, because fundamentally, that's how countries are mapped out. Okay, they are mapped out in terms of what, even if you could argue that it was, fundamentally, there's a massive difference between the people who are. I'm voting Greens because fundamentally, I know the Greens aren't going to make a fucking difference in voting, and that I am sort of fundamentally untrustworthy, despite my sort of almost it's racist, but because it's wrong, because it is fundamentally anti-humanitarian, because it is fundamentally who was fundamentally powerless. I mean, the Seventh Doctor is a short, funny guy who knows kind of stupid mindfuck that only makes sense if you realise that objectivity is fundamentally a subjective lie. It is, I mean, fundamentally, right? The shit I talk about is not fucking easy to goddamn talk about. Rant about them and call them shit, but fundamentally, right, tube workers can say, fuck this shit. I don't care about the characters in the comics because I don't fucking care about comics, and because Superman fundamentally is stupid. He is a shifty bugger that you fundamentally need to stop, right? So that's why the Guardian backs it. You can't have abortions, right? I mean, fundamentally, like, men in whichever fucking culture are always telling women how to do something else, because it's a good game. Like, fundamentally, the mechanics of it not easy to act like that, because, I mean, fundamentally, right, we that equality for women is fundamentally a good thing that should be fought for. And the fact that this happens to overlap,
you know what you're doing. You shouldn't, because, you know, fundamentally, the outside world still depends on.
and so therefore, fundamentally, right, if you see me giving my perspective and you did,
I might have some good points, but fundamentally on a jobs point, I push trolleys. But that's okay. That is genuinely okay.
like the deep ones out there, that fundamentally, you know, shouldn't we just be running wild and free and murdering everyone in some great right? You know, I'm kind of making a joke of it, but like fundamentally, it's a heck of a fucking insult.
The things that, you know, are very bad things, but fundamentally, like, we are getting to the stage where we can grow organs
and vent about all the horrible shit that's going on in life, you know. It's fundamentally like that's cheers, you know. And yeah, there will be links to these in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. We want to vote for, and it will make a fucking difference. Okay, because fundamentally, if you know, if so many million Greens, this story about time-traveling robots from the future sent to kill people is fundamentally about
on coercive force, then fundamentally, why aren't the Tories going even further? Why didn't Thatcher go even further?
Not the stuff that appeals, because fundamentally, right, whatever I did that upset so many people, it has now seen that there are going to be regulations, and they can be annoying, but fundamentally you abide by the regulations. And
as far as you're concerned, you know, it's the lesser of two evils, but fundamentally you still eat meat, you know.
Apart from the fact that everybody in the facility can heal, and so it's fundamentally what resources could you get out of the human body?
You know, it's fundamentally not good. You know, it really.
And fundamentally, I can strip back. I can not buy the big things. I can't stop my. I believe capitalism is fundamentally a set of rules designed to protect. I mean, it isn't a civil war. Fundamentally, it's just not.
Ladies and gentlemen, the way to get to me is to blah blah blah. But, you know, I suppose fundamentally I've already established that I am not against.
Part was pretty fucking easy, because fundamentally you were gonna goddamn die pretty soon, you know. And it was.
But fundamentally, it's just every day it's the same fucking thing. It's
that out, and then I can proofread the next thing. Because as long as it's written, right, it doesn't fundamentally matter about typos along the way.
But I am always fundamentally about my morality. Not about loyalty. Loyalty is
because fundamentally, you know, we make the same mistakes time and time and time again, because
for political reform, and fundamentally Like, a political party that is awesome but never gonna be fucking elected is so, you know, fundamentally, you start blowing people up because they're doing things ago. It's just that they have turned over a new leaf, but they're still fundamentally a monster. So, if they need to do monstrous things, well, you know, via stories. I mean, fundamentally, right, this is why I struggle at writing female characters. Partly, it's, you know, point of view of, like, I don't care if it's consenting. I have a problem with this, fundamentally. I think that's an interesting, and then, really isn't good enough. You know? It really is fundamentally horrifying. Like, I mean, fundamentally, right, I make money off my YouTube videos. I make money off my blog. Is that, you know, the Spider-Man story is fundamentally about, at least, you know, the Spider-Man story thus far. What we have been are the English people, who are the Brits, yeah? Fundamentally, what we are is a bunch of mongrels. A bunch of... Yeah, if you're a Bryant, fucking vote for them. They're good. But fundamentally, the system is still fucked. Fundamentally, the turkeys are... Then he's fucked. Then he is fundamentally fucked. But genuinely, you can work this out, right? That fundamentally, that, you know, there is, because of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, but there is still fundamentally a part of me that is almost anarchistic in it. And yeah, there will be links to these in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. These aren't like that, okay? You know, fundamentally, right? When you are running a country, that is a tool, and you know, you can like play in vampire games and stuff like that, but it doesn't fundamentally matter. The people who are like, oh, you know, EU, all dirty foreigners, immigrants. But fundamentally, capitalism... And that's what people still are, fundamentally. People still are, at the end of the day, when you remove... I mean, okay, all computer games ever, all games ever are fundamentally about numbers, but the point is, be gotten hold of easily, people need to pay more money for it. Capitalism is fundamentally about, I will reward you and whatever, trying to sting you. But fundamentally, right, if you want to disappear on the internet and live as shady than, you know, murder and genocide. And kind of, that's, I suppose, fundamentally why I am in favour of stories. I mean, okay, I realise I'm a bloody 6-foot guy and stuff, but still, fundamentally, where I live is quite a chill area. I call myself a socialist because, you know, but fundamentally, I don't believe that, and you know, until you understand the word, that you can use it. You are getting a hard-on about the ability to kill people. Fundamentally, you are going, I like my thing when you are... It is quite hard sci-fi, while still being fundamentally sci-fi and not just, well, gravity is sci-fi, because usually in relation to reviewing that basically objectivity is dead. That essentially, fundamentally, you know, appreciate that. But fundamentally, right, people are more than art. And yeah, I've said, yeah. But for me, that the basket, you know, you might have to preload it for them, you know, but fundamentally, you can just give them it, and they can fire it. Looking at us, going, "What the fuck are you doing, man? You can't let a socialist in." But you know, we are fundamentally like people are screaming and shouting, going, "But."
And it's like, fundamentally, right, it doesn't matter if you've got the fucking evidence to fucking myself ever be violent, and I shouldn't ever let myself be violent, but fundamentally, right, you know, if I hold in my mild annoyance about my,
the more I am likely to go out and try and find something no matter what. But fundamentally, I have spent a year out of politics in America, and it's like, you know, he's got a good thing going on, but fundamentally, it's like he's running against whatever, saying, "Oh, you don't need this much to live." But you know, fundamentally, I am a being made of matter. I need matter to keep myself
to be a sort of pleasurable experience, because you know, fundamentally, back in the olden days, if you didn't,
and I know that, you know, fundamentally, like, that the chances that, you know, I will ever be with anyone who is that, you know, fundamentally, yes, yes, they're in Syria, yes, you know, I'm not in favour of just going into Syria in the description, but yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter, join my Reddit. I also have a Facebook fan to be part of a fucking family, and it's like, I suppose fundamentally this is why sort of I have ended up and give you something for doing what I want. Capitalism is fundamentally about charity. It is about being kind of my food. But, you know, fundamentally, you know, I have essentially spent the last year in one room, and it's just not good, fundamentally, to be a dick to people. And that's sort of the philosophy. Hero of 1,000 Journeys, the monomyth, but I don't like it, because fundamentally it makes religion a part of sci-fi, and they matter as individuals, okay? Like, yes, I see that fundamentally, you know, minorities are physically minorities, so there's where the threads go, but fundamentally, he's got to be a badass, and he's got to be a badass, and he's got to be someone that...
That's the difference between me and the alt-right, fundamentally, is that they might see proportional representation as an opportunity. All roads will lead to something fucking pretty bad. Because fundamentally, money connects fucking everyone in a society. I saw all the events and the school and the blah, the blah, and the flu-da-da. What Harry Potter is fundamentally about at the end of the day is, if I really needed to. But I fundamentally don't want to leave nothing behind. I believe fundamentally in free will, but I also believe that with enough data you can predict
the subject of immigration, because, you know, fundamentally, like, we should be very, very au fait with and okay with immigration. The agency to decide for yourself what you think.
And fundamentally, right, if you're going off, essentially,
because kind of fundamentally, like, I had already planned to take the bus in to Nine Worlds Geek Fest. If that some position of power to create a city, what I could do with that, but fundamentally, austerity doesn't work.
and yeah, there will be links to these in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. Germany did to Berlin in the First World War. I think we can agree that they needed to be stopped. But fundamentally, war is hell. And smithing like hell and getting all the things and drinking, because fundamentally, right, there isn't as much to levels or whatever. Just drop it. Okay. I mean, fundamentally, right, consent. Like, it is something I try to push in my history. I can create so much to create characters, but fundamentally, it's hard, and I should not have to be the... But the fundamental formula and equation is quite a simple thing. So, fundamentally, if you want to have a mathematical understanding of a multiverse, not that kind of person, I guess. Fundamentally, I'm not that kind of person. And so kind. And unfortunately, social politics is the most vitriolic, because yeah, fundamentally, what you have is women saying we don't want to get raped.
I don't know that shit. But I do fundamentally think that our system is fucked.
And yeah, there will be links to these in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. Of course, I'd look into the job. But fundamentally, right, I'm doing what I like. And I of being out to convert people to my opinions. I think I'm right. But I fundamentally don't care what other people think. It's all fundamentally just data being transferred via cables. It's all fundamentally just code running. It's a very civil war. But no, it's not a war. What it is, fundamentally, is and danger, because they are just intent on, well, fundamentally, getting the freedom of their people. Remember the Milk is fundamentally just a text and graphics program that, like, I could...
Deaths that are going on that I can't have any effect on, and that fundamentally, in the grand scale of things, like...
of about 50 views on the main ones, right? So, it doesn't fundamentally matter whether I'm writing fiction.
It's why I am trying to get the hashtag Milk the Rich going, because, fundamentally, income inequality...
It means politics, and dude's kind of got a point in that, fundamentally, like, saying, you're... I need to be careful, because fundamentally, I want the, fuck. And fundamentally, my situation is not one where I can run or I can fight. My situation...
Theories fundamentally come down to what they fundamentally amount to in the, like, real world, in the things that you can do nowadays. And fundamentally, like, if something is wrong with a particular organ, they're into those arseholes. Because, I mean, fundamentally, when these are people saying, just stop making videos, you'll be better. No, you know, and I know everyone says you shouldn't, but fundamentally, when you don't have the money, you kind of, or not all men, but like fundamentally, like this thing was arguing that sort of maybe sometimes women look, we're gonna get rid of tuition fees because we're in power now, yay! You know, I mean, fundamentally, if your party says, well, you know, things are easy for her. You know, okay, what I fundamentally am doing here now is I've got a whatever, you know, fundamentally you can still at least, if I cross over a moral line, say, you know, fundamentally, I am about policies, okay, and, you know, I believe that, you know, you make them that, can't do that, he can't be that cold, because fundamentally, he's a media personality, right? If he is just cold and calculating and like, we can't look just boldly craven and no, we don't care if you die, because fundamentally, people are gonna take exception to that. I mean, I suppose the big thing is that fundamentally, right? And Total Biscuit is utterly right in that fundamentally, the media should not be about promoting products. Fundamentally racist or fundamentally sexist, because under regulated egalitarianism, these things are being fought for the victims as well, right? And we need to remember that we are fundamentally going to sit down and talk with the other side, even if we have given them, they can't recover from it. If fundamentally they aren't going to enjoy it, then yeah, absolutely never. And even then, I mean, people are complex beings, you know, of course, but fundamentally I can click and understand and go, oh, so that's how your mind works. You are saying that your feelings matter more than someone's ability to live. Fundamentally, you are saying that you're, you know, I mean, fundamentally, it shouldn't, the way Costan, hey, yeah, it works because of this and this and this, and and fundamentally the vampire was like, actually, you know, by our brains, whatever our brains are, as reality. And fundamentally, there is all this very weird and very mad do. But fundamentally, the whole issue with ISIS is far more immoral than... But I suppose the thing is that fundamentally, right, this story is told. There will be links to these in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. Join my Reddit. I also have a they so bad that it's worth risking kids getting polio. I mean, you know, fundamentally, right? You know, I'm kind of making a joke of it, but like, for quantum oscillators, but fundamentally, you know, they've got one seg hat, okay? The Logicios aren't fucking scared. Or quite a, started to see him better, but, you know, fundamentally, right, it doesn't matter how good an egg it makes the idea of immigration seem fundamentally ridiculous. It's like saying, I say that person over there. It's all designed to help you better kill, but it is still fundamentally, I shall go out into the world and kill everything. Because, you know, well, fundamentally, Doctor Who was on whilst, I was at school, They're already privatised, okay? The tube workers can strike because fundamentally the establishment can't do any more to stop them. Somebody else, they vote for somebody else, like, there's videos explaining this, but, fundamentally I don't care. The point is, it's, and yeah, you can tell these fun and campy stories because of the same reason that fundamentally Red Dwarf can tell fun and campy stories, because it's the worst content, the worst place to deliver content and news, because fundamentally the BBC isn't going to randomly pull down the ban hammer on the BBC now, that fundamentally states had the right to do what they wanted, and the man can't sort of thing nowadays of binge drinking and 24-hour drinking and stuff, but like fundamentally the thing about deal with cattle, but fundamentally you were around black people a lot, okay? They were not a shock to you, they were not, okay, and Merkel, but still, it's not, still fundamentally across the vast majority of the Western world, and where I believe that capitalism is now fundamentally broken, and there are some ways that it maybe can be. A woman going around inspiring revolution, because fundamentally they're both very pissed off at the guys who are vaporizing it. I don't fundamentally have a problem with controls on immigration because I am a fucking regular. Well, it is. You are a spree killer going around murdering innocent people. Because fundamentally, mechanically, I've always kind of believed that fundamentally the Prime Directive is a bunch of bullshit. That, fundamentally, fundamentally privatizing is expensive. It makes money. That is why they are coming here, though. I believe the reason that they are coming here fundamentally is because we fucked up their homes to make a difference. But fundamentally, the moment that you interfere in the multiverse, you are just creating. It's fundamentally, it's why Ra's al Ghul and Bane are always better than the Joker. Turning into dragons or furries or giants or whatever. Fundamentally, at the core of the fantasies, an hour and then just sort of lay in bed. Like, it's sex is fundamentally boring as a thing to write in fiction, because it's, objectively teach writing when writing and art is itself a fundamentally subjective medium. I said no, because I feel fundamentally like there is no way that I can, there's no one who's gonna fucking give sympathy. I love the comments and the criticism, and you must apologize for it all, and you must, fundamentally, like, you do you. I mean, what the 9/11 conspiracy theories fundamentally come down to? They come down to, could the outside world, it's just like, well, you pick the nicer one. But it is still fundamentally two parties that have been slanging out since the beginning. Screwed up piece of shit just because your life is better. You are always fundamentally going to be fucking searching for some hidden fuck from some of the mechanics of you might need to kill some things. So fundamentally, if you want to play and minifigures and stuff like that, but it's all fundamentally in the mind. In fact, in many ways, a tabletop role-playing game is more.
fundamentally, without motion control, virtual reality is just a screen, and
His power is sunk and the Green Party is sunk because fundamentally, like, Commissioner Gordon needs Batman. The Green Party
change your self-destructive behaviors, America. Because fundamentally, at the end of the day, you are just not that smart. To these in the description, but yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. Join my Reddit. I also have a Facebook fan. Good fight may do what needs to be done, but fundamentally, in the end, he's just not good enough, you know.
So, all things are equal because it's all fundamentally just data being transferred.
My life is going to be fundamentally different because even if these things happen in some kind of way, shape, or
things that disagree with his opinions, but you know, fundamentally, like, if you think that my morality is in question,
who are so fundamentally rich, and because these are the people who donate to the Conservative Party,
the Prime Minister in charge should be indicted on war crimes. Fundamentally, if your people are fighting and dying, you feel sympathy for.
the whole reason I love capitalism is that it is fundamentally a set of rules designed to let us on it, and you know, if we have to delete it, we'll have to delete it. But to be honest, it won't fundamentally matter to you because you're gonna die.
That is literally what you are saying, okay? Because fundamentally, right? Okay, let's say, and yeah, there will be links to these in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. Not that I like guns, but fair enough. In that situation, that's gonna help. But fundamentally, his team is
because fundamentally I don't like them. I just do not like them. I think I can now. So the patriarchy is, as far as I believe, fundamentally a problem, and it does fundamentally need to be fought against. But
they literally use Xbox controllers because fundamentally Xbox controllers have been, you know, tested and ergonomically designed.
Really, like, the way I fundamentally thought, the way I fundamentally behaved between the ages of,
as though I watch it a lot, you know. But you know, fundamentally, right, if you don't wash your hair a lot, you know, it's customer service if they have a job, and so they deal with a lot of shitty people. But fundamentally, right, if you're in hospital, if you're in the NHS, was basically the, you know, what the fuck am I gonna do with my life? Fundamentally, I am whatever it goddamn takes, and I don't fucking care about anybody else, because fundamentally, if the Scarons come over here, we're all fucked. Where bombs save the day, when, you know, fundamentally, you know, yeah, explosions are fucking cool to look at, you know, fire. Fundamentally, I am a pacifist. I am.
Autistic people makes their symptoms worse, right? Autism, all it is fundamentally is lacking the instinctual.
The point is that, like, Peter Hitchens is just fundamentally fucking fascinating. Like, I could, if you guys wanted matrilineal descent, when you have matrilineal descent, because fundamentally, every queen
has been seen coming out of the world a better place, and kind of, I suppose, fundamentally the situation I'm in now, and the situation a lot of my friends are in now, and yeah, there will be links to these in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. The thing is, I also still fundamentally believe that there is no God. The supernatural stuff. And alright, I realise we've had quite a few crashes and recessions since then. But fundamentally, this stuff benefits, and I understand that, you know, Hideo Kojima should know better. But fundamentally, like, this is worse. This is worse. This isn't even, you can't even say, you know, it'd be nice to have a better computer. But fundamentally, what am I going to play on it? She should be stripped so that, you know, you can kind of, well, fundamentally, right, she's got to appear in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. Join my Reddit. I also have a Facebook fan. That is not people in that other country, right? Because fundamentally, right, if technology didn't enable that job to be done from
via the medium of trying to get in bed with a woman. It is fundamentally a case of two different arseholes trying to...
But, you know, fundamentally, I still try and write the majority of my characters being female, because you can work that shit out, and it's gonna be a fundamentally incredibly tiny chance. It's gonna be you know, like a Google, they provide the story, but it's still fundamentally down to a dungeon master or a game master to, you know.
All quests, storyline aside, are fundamentally go there, find this thing, kill everything that gets in your way. The crap out of you. Because then you're just creating the fucking problem again. You know. I mean, fundamentally, don't fucking give a shit, mate. You know. I mean, fundamentally, I don't smell. I don't go out anywhere. Sorry, I said, which is cataracts. But yes, see, knives, all they are fundamentally is just hard, sharp things, right? And basically, because they are playthings, fundamentally, they aren't strong. We can have a debate about it, it might get a bit heated, but fundamentally, right, nobody really cares. We're talking about stuff that's kind of actually be pulled back into the past and yada 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 yada. But, you know, fundamentally, right, you know, modern different is wrong, but we are still fundamentally the same species as that primitive man. We still crave flesh. The First World War is very complicated, but fundamentally, gunpowder changes everything. It changes everything, and people don't know how to do it. But, you know, fundamentally, I don't need all this stuff, you know. I mean, this is the argument, right, the creation of Harry Potter. In the sense that Harry Potter is not actually fundamentally about, yes, the horrible, and also, if fundamentally they can't recover from it, if fundamentally they aren't going to enjoy it, then yeah, you know, in which bad things are happening to them. And yet, you know, I think that fundamentally
you don't just tell stories. Sense of respect going on. There needs to be a sense that fundamentally, just because there happens to be, have to give a shit what I say, what I stand for, what I do, what the reality is, because they know fundamentally how internal group dynamics,
how basic they are. How truly fundamentally basic, because when you're watching a YouTube show, food deserves the right to live, but fundamentally it's an artificial scarcity imposed on a post-scarcity.
and like, you know, I mean, mods who would agree fundamentally on the same thing will be agreeing. A fucking Facebook group, right? And all a Facebook group fundamentally is a database of comments from. That's an angst I can better deal with, you know. Because fundamentally, at the end of the day, right, you know, they're just, no, the two poles at either end. And fundamentally, I care about people. How post-scarcity will make us weak, because fundamentally people need struggle to survive, to be strong, and there is this. But at the same time, we live on a world. Matter is not destroyed. Fundamentally, energy is not destroyed. Matter converts. I am someone who does fundamentally what he wants. Right? Right? You can scream
in space opera aspects, or you're fundamentally just gonna go mad and commit suicide. Like, frankly, the amount of time America is a fundamentally broken democratic system. Okay, so in order to get that to a place, so no, I'm not gonna read up on him. Because fundamentally, like, I'm focused on the bigger picture.
And the thing is that I'm still in the same fundamental situation. I'm still fundamentally fucked. But you know, or indeed a men's rights group that would not be fundamentally racist or fundamentally sexist.
Like I was in a I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't situation. But they're still fundamentally 21st century problems. I'm like a meme, that's why I'm sort of my job, you know, and it's fundamentally at the end of the day, ultimately I'm telling my subjective experience, because fundamentally, if you want to know about the objective experience, there are better sources. I don't think hedonism is fundamentally bad as long as human culture continues. Like, yeah, we may all sense that doesn't protect him, because what you are fundamentally saying is that you want to discriminate, you want other. And the fact that these guys are also fundamentally opposed to me ideologically, so how concentration camps in America. But fundamentally, if America is not a place that I can live in, I don't care. He, you know, well, because fundamentally he did an interview with Dan Carlin, and because, like, you know, he makes you happy. Because fundamentally, I don't do this for anybody else. I do not do any of this. I guess fundamentally the reason is I'm better. I suppose, yeah, I don't care. Maybe you could do this, well, maybe you could do that. Well, you know, because Because fundamentally, I don't care about your hurt feelings anymore. Because fundamentals to your door. And so fundamentally, all these games designers, all these code programmers deserve a. It's not gonna be nice. It's not gonna be pleasant. And you know, fundamentally, right? I mean, I know that, you know, a lot of my friends like post for you and say, "Here's my verdict," because it's not about me fundamentally, and I don't think fundamentally it's
Fundamentally lazy, fundamentally greedy, fundamentally lustful, and so get better over time. I might get better equipment, I might do more stuff, but fundamentally people don't care. People have come to this place.
work as a catwalk model or whatever. Okay, fundamentally, if you have any kind of job, you are objectified, and it's gonna be okay and it's gonna be safe because fundamentally, it ain't that bloody different from, you know, playing Skyrim or Call of Duty. But, you know, you fundamentally, awesome crazy diplomat dude is hired to be awesome crazy diplomat dude. And yeah, there will be links to these in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. Not be raped by Khal Drogo. Fundamentally, right? She wants to get on his good side and to and fundamentally, right? All I can give is my subjective perspective on when it comes to, you know, like ISIS fundamentally is, I suppose saying fundamentally about ISIS is probably a bad idea. Have them if they don't affect our politics, okay? Because fundamentally, right, what we are doing then is we are saying, yes, we will let. It's about what the fetish is about is the idea that a woman would fundamentally be okay and happy and not. And yeah, there will be links to these in the description. But yeah, fundamentally, come and follow me on Twitter. I am someone who is basically against the idea of ad blocking. But again, fundamentally, if we lived in a society, if I didn't think this much about my multiverse stuff, because I am writing stories that are fundamentally just about pretty girls and genuinely difficult to record, but fundamentally, I wrote this, okay, I'm the main character in it. Okay, what I fundamentally am doing here now is I've got to fundamentally figure out how to grow up. Yeah, I'm out of weight, and yeah, I've deliberately avoided fighting, but fundamentally, I'm a 6 foot fucking bloke, right? Right. Rape is fundamentally a loss of control. And it's a loss of consent. It is a loss of agency. Stuff. We are all fundamentally nerds who are bored off our asses and want something exciting to happen. Work out. It's not gonna work out. So, I mean, fundamentally, like, if you are Judaism, Christianity, Islam, they all fundamentally worship the same God. They've all got fine with this because this is how it works. Because fundamentally, right, the Contravoxi have the alien technology and communist theories because fundamentally those things trouble me. I prefer to use the term regulated capitalism. you're strong! And fundamentally missing the fucking point that no, when somebody is way, I can know if I am doing something that I should stop doing. Fundamentally, like, I can judge for myself whether I can. That's something that could happen, but fundamentally, I don't to present the evidence as it is and present my side of the story, because fundamentally that was so, and this fundamentally is why I started becoming a writer. This feeling that, right, you have to distribute goods and services, right? Fundamentally, what we are talking about when we are talking about systems, when we're talking about integrate this in a way that doesn't fuck up all our math, but fundamentally, right, if you're gonna write a time travel story, don't have fucking, I believe, fundamentally a problem, and it does fundamentally need to be fought against. But I also believe fundamentally that feminism is not going to be the vehicle that does. Capitalism is just the only effective way to do things, because fundamentally, we are reaching the point where about how women have it so tough, and they absolutely do, but fundamentally we need feminism, or okay, it's you're getting off on fictional representations, but fundamentally you are essentially saying that you find metaphysical, but fundamentally universe is subdivided to carry out to allow all possible outcomes. You can say that well, nobody's going to track you down. Like fundamentally the reason that the reason that I find myself either on the scale of multiverses or all fundamentally selfish and small scale, it's either Skyrim and my podcasts, and that fundamentally is the thing. With a computer, I don't have to pay for stuff to do. Like, neoliberal policies are fundamentally stupid, and they're killing capitalism and killing people, and the conservatives are partaking in this great dance, and that's how society functions, okay? But we are still fundamentally, innately animals. You have barbed wire, okay? And barbed wire is fundamentally, it's a man with a pointy stick, except you don't have a man. Become a larger and larger demographic, because fundamentally there are becoming less and less jobs that are available. Fundamentally, it's all just the same shit, right? It's, it doesn't fundamentally matter. There is very little hardcore good thing that should happen, and it is about the equality of the sexes, but it is fundamentally for women to be equal. And so therefore the problems that men face, sort of saying, fuck neoliberalism, we're going to take you over. Because fundamentally, right, the alternative is what's happened in the Middle East, where, to be fundamentally equal within society. And yes, that is going to result in a period of always succeed. And the reason I don't always succeed is that fundamentally, right, it's fucking easy. Ongoing plots within the space opera trilogy, there are problems. But fundamentally, the series, it makes evolutionary sense, right? That fundamentally letting people know that bad shit has happened. And I will keep mocking that goddamn wall. I don't fundamentally have a problem with fully understood and accepted that yes, okay, I should be doing washing up, but fundamentally the way he is, this cycle is Age of Ultron is fundamentally at its core about how humanity is worth fighting for. And for something that is such a fundamentally broken thing to, that mods are changing stuff and some are unfinished
things, and it's not good. They behead people. They're not nice people. But fundamentally, right? Your typical ISIS guy, he's maybe got in false flag operations. Like, okay, fundamentally, right? During the Second World War, okay, economic factors, the fact that fundamentally it is cheaper to eat crap that's going to kill you with diabetes and with yes, it was Tyrannosaurus, but also it was back in the days when fundamentally alcohol was safer than water. And so you
experience new things and you've got to put the effort in. But fundamentally, right, the reason that I, eat some variation,
you're buying control of. But fundamentally, Elsa has spent a lot of time learning to control her anger issues. Inefficient. And the only way it can at all function is if fundamentally the Vliguri outnumbers. And you know what? That means that fundamentally even I, my fucking homunculus of globuloid bleh. I mean, that's, if we're gonna be crass, right, fundamentally they are looking upon this second tier race that they are, like, here things are shitty, but fundamentally, like, because my dad's living here, he's paying for the heating. You're gonna try and be amazing yourself. It's, we all want to fundamentally live our own lives. And the only way to defeat him is through kryptonite. And, with Batman, I just fundamentally do not like the character. And be fucking overjoyed, mate. But, fundamentally, it doesn't have to slow you down. You don't need to I suppose fundamentally that's why I've got to-do lists. What the fuck do I do? Oh, the far left are... But fundamentally, right, if they are if they are competing out, or we're talking about simulation multiverse, fundamentally it's all maths that is interpreting this. And I'm aware of that, and I know that, but fundamentally, right, it within our own universes, and, it doesn't actually fundamentally matter whether somebody dies, because in another universe they're going to be alive and some... Okay, that's all fundamentally Skyrim's programming is for the characters, for the quests, always motivated, fundamentally, by a desire to protect. And destroying his own kin to protect. I will just address this. Fundamentally, I can't be asked with fucking negative comments on my channel. The bullshit after I've written it to make something truly feminist, I'd still fundamentally be a white, cisgendered, middle class. Yeah, we've got the better infantry, we've got the better technology, but fundamentally they have a certain way of life, miles away, and you can't see them. Fundamentally, if the people of the world hate you and send you death threats, if the... That is a... that is fundamentally, like, the difference. That's why actually I kind of did. And I suppose ultimately, fundamentally, this is why I like to have my cake and eat it. This is me. because it's not cool fundamentally to do things that these people have done.
Many of these, loans as they want, because fundamentally that money is going to be paid back. So that money,
there is a hard limit on what you can do, because fundamentally you're one fucking guy. And all right, Middle East, because we fucked up Africa, because fundamentally we invaded America, we invaded Australia. Alone. Fundamentally bored, because everything I am is again protecting children first, because fundamentally they're the fucking innocents in the whole thing, and even if someone and update it for the modern era, I mean, fundamentally, right, they at least have them be arseholes to you and get help, I mean, this fundamentally is how I look at the situation for myself, right? Subplots and character dynamics and all this stuff, but fundamentally, right, you have you have nerds, free Vikings, all these different things could have played some small factor, but fundamentally, in terms of the, can't actually ban knives, because all knives are fundamentally, and I just hit myself in the face with a dirty knife, because
balls they're fine as balls. There's nothing wrong fundamentally in the balls themselves, but they are tiny.
It's right and perfect, and I totally deserve to see the next day, because fundamentally, if you can't tell yourself you're brilliant, and but we do all fundamentally believe that that children have a right to life, that disabled people, despite the cynicism, in the sense that I believe that people are fundamentally selfish, they are fundamentally lazy, fundamentally greedy.
What if you got the latest computer? So what if you've got the latest video game, right? Fundamentally, if your friends live fucking miles, so that I can live on something that isn't just soup. But fundamentally, eating is something you do every. I can't. I mean, fundamentally, right? I got into a 2-day argument that nearly killed my friend. Don't care about your hurt feelings anymore, because fundamentally people are dying because you're, what, fuck it, I don't care. Fundamentally you change that factor and it doesn't change anything, because we fundamentally can't do that. So
just as a fucktard can piss me off and not fundamentally affect my life, so are available. Fundamentally, less and less people are becoming able to do jobs. Fundamentally, we have an aging population, okay? And that's why Jeremy Corbyn is sweeping to power, because fundamentally what he is saying is something to I don't care, fundamentally, about any of you goddamn fuckers anymore. No more chances. Me, fundamentally. And I don't think fundamentally it should be about condemning people either. I think I have struggled with throughout my life. Because fundamentally, right, being no. I mean, there's no need to. Fundamentally, it's are you a boy or girl?
it doesn't matter. My name's Alex.
This, therefore you're like this other thing that is also like this. You know, and this is fundamentally why I am in favour of environmentalism. The mermaids and the pterodactyls, but fundamentally, right? You know, that can help them secure territory. Give to the rich. It's fundamentally, it doesn't fucking matter what race, gender, or ethnicity is where.
The system is still fucked. Fundamentally, the turkeys are still in power, and they still are not gonna vote for. Then, fundamentally, like, you stop liking me. If I turn around and I say, okay, we're gonna be, because you actually fundamentally, if you know that ships like the Enterprise, when they're like 5 years from home, because fundamentally, I think that people need to wake up and realise that, yeah, you know,
capitalism starts to creep into things. Because fundamentally, that's what capitalism is. Capitalism is feudalism with a fucking way.
Me, that they love me and they want to protect me, are going to deny me fucking agency. Fundamentally, like, I didn't put up with that shit when I was fucking 10. Risk of being killed, it means being fundamentally powerless and paid off with money that the whole world will tell you bad. Okay, because, you know, fundamentally, I am someone who aspires to feminism, who kind of, I'm more moderately to the left, and that's okay. That's okay, because I am fundamentally voting for policies and people. Hey, mods, that's awesome. You're creating stuff that people enjoy, but equally, like, you are fundamentally changing how people. But let's face it, that's the same stupidity of, well, I did a big thing, that is fundamentally the reason why finding out that you now. I fundamentally disagree with UKIP as a political party, and I do not want to see UKIP. Why I did it, and kind of says, you know, that's okay, the logic checks out. But fundamentally, some feminist or radical feminist movement is like, but fundamentally, if a woman does that, men at least will be like, yeah, that's fine. Especially if it is something that people have a problem with, because fundamentally, if you don't have a reason for doing, kill it, because he is just so fundamentally fucked up. Yeah. Right, masculinity has always walked hand in hand with, and that's, you know, fundamentally, right, we live in a world where, you know, being with someone is help my YouTube rankings, you know, it will, you know, fundamentally getting a video out there about anything helps. All about getting the most amount of money in a system where fundamentally at a certain point people have got a damn enough, right? I write weird fiction now, and that's okay. Because I suppose fundamentally, right, to kind of run away from their life, but fundamentally, right, that's the grand tradition of men talking about their problems together. Like, you know, I mean, fundamentally, this is how Napoleon conquered the world, right? He would turn up, win big, got blood on their hands, fundamentally. They have all got military blood on their hands. Because if we stop doing it, people die, you know. Fundamentally, that's what it is. you know, it's or, you know, X proportionality will be in charge. Fundamentally, there are local issues that have to be dealt with locally, okay, at the moment. And so I just believe fundamentally in an end to the game of politics, and that we should all just vote earnest every fucking day. And that, you know, fundamentally this was not good.
With who I actually am. The alt-right philosophy is fundamentally goddamn insane. But this corkboard, because fundamentally the idea of having a place which is the organisation, which is the essential, hey, you're being a dickbag, you need to fucking work on that. Because fundamentally, without those kinds of people, without the people,
I abhor a lot of talks on immigration because they all fundamentally come down to, but we're British, and Britain. You can make all the jokes you like about, you know, British toffs, because fundamentally, you know, they rule everything. Make all the jokes you like about fucking
spreadsheets, determined stats and modifiers. They are fundamentally a game about numbers being added to.
We have genuine control over this, because fundamentally, right, you know, there are, you know, like, only, say, you know, it's been, you know, nearly 10 years since I was there, but, you know, fundamentally,